That's so many cars with so much. Oh my god. Oh my god.
On September 17, 2025, residents of Fort Myers, Florida, watched their city transform in a matter of minutes. Streets that just hours before carried rush-hour traffic turned into rivers. Parking lots disappeared under knee-deep water, and playgrounds vanished beneath pools of rain. Within a single afternoon, 1 to 2 inches of rainfall with higher totals in some pockets was enough to overwhelm drained stall cars and leave drivers scrambling for safety. Access roads to Southwest Florida International Airport were submerged, forcing travelers to navigate delays and detours. For families, the flood meant more than inconvenience. Garages filled with water furniture was ruined, and memories floated out with the current. Officials issued flood advisories, but for many the warnings came too late to stop the damage. Today, Fort Myers faces a sobering reality. If such devastation can come from just one afternoon storm, what does it mean for the storms still ahead?
Oh shit! Get in the house! Oh! The house!
The flood began, like so many Florida storms do, quiet skies suddenly boiling into chaos. By mid-afternoon, radar lit up with bright red and purple signaling the arrival of slow-moving thunderstorms that would sit over Fort Myers for hours. At 3:16 p.m., the National Weather Service issued a flood advisory, but by then it was already too late for many. Within the first hour, 1 to 2 inches of rain had fallen, and in some neighborhoods totals likely doubled. Streets in North Fort Myers quickly filled to wheel-well depth, forcing drivers to abandon vehicles in rising water. In Suncoast estates and Pomona Park backyards, vanished playgrounds were swallowed and children's toys floated down curbs like debris. On Fowler Street, police blocked intersections where water rose waist-high while firefighters waded through current to rescue stranded motorists. Emergency crews diverted traffic, but major corridors slowed to a crawl. The flooding even reached Southwest Florida International Airport, where access roads were impassable, stranding travelers and delaying flights. In less than 2 hours, an ordinary Tuesday had turned into a citywide emergency. From suburban cul-de-sacs to airport terminals, Fort Myers was drowning under the weight of a storm that refused to move on.
Whole house. Man, oh.
As the water kept rising, Fort Myers' emergency system was pushed to its limits. The 911 call center was inundated with reports, drivers trapped in submerged cars, families stuck in flooded homes, and elderly residents unable to reach higher ground. Firefighters launched swift water rescues, pulling stranded motorists from vehicles on US 41 and guiding residents out of flooded neighborhoods in Pomona Park. Police cruisers, headlights barely above water, went door to door in low-lying communities, urging people to evacuate before conditions worsened. Amid the chaos came stories of resilience. On Fowler Street, a group of neighbors formed a human chain to help an elderly woman wade through chest-deep water to safety. At a small apartment complex, residents carried children on their shoulders, shielding them from floating debris. One family shared how their dog was swept toward a storm drain before a teenager dove in and pulled it out, earning cheers from soaked onlookers. Local shelters, including church basements and school gymnasiums, opened their doors, providing cots, bottled water, and hot meals. Volunteers handed out blankets by flashlight. Even in the dark, Fort Myers showed its brightest side, a community refusing to let its neighbors face disaster alone. Meteorologists call what hit Fort Myers a training storm, a phenomenon where thunderstorm cells repeatedly pass over the same area like cars on a track. Instead of moving quickly out to sea, the system stalled, fueled by a deep plume of Gulf moisture and unstable summer air. Within just a few hours, parts of the city saw 6 to 8 inches of rain, with some unofficial backyard gauges topping 10 inches. To put that in perspective, that's more than 2 months' worth of rain falling in a single evening. Experts at the National Weather Service in Tampa Bay explained that the flooding wasn't just about rainfall totals, it was about intensity. In several neighborhoods, more than 3 inches fell in less than an hour, overwhelming drainage systems designed for far smaller surges. Climatologists warn that this is becoming the new normal. Warmer air holds more water vapor, meaning storms can dump heavier downpours in shorter time spans. A 2021 NOAA study found that extreme rainfall events in the southeast have increased by nearly 30% over the past 50 years. For Fort Myers, this wasn't just a freak storm, it was a glimpse into a hotter, wetter future, where localized floods can strike with little warning and devastating force.
But I've been recording for 8 minutes.
I just edited it.
Okay, yeah.
The storm's toll wasn't measured in rainfall alone, it was measured in lives upended. At least 3 fatalities have been confirmed. A man swept away while trying to drive across a flooded intersection, an elderly woman who drowned in her ground-floor apartment, and a teenager electrocuted after stepping into water, hiding a downed power line. Dozens of others were hospitalized for injuries ranging from broken bones to hypothermia. Hundreds of families lost cars, furniture, and irreplaceable keepsakes as floodwaters invaded their homes. For many, it wasn't just property, it was the loss of a sense of safety. Yet, amid heartbreak, resilience shined through. Churches transformed into shelters overnight, offering hot meals, cots, and bottled water. Local businesses donated supplies while volunteers waded through knee-deep water, delivering essentials to shut-in residents. On social media, stories spread of neighbors checking on the elderly strangers, pushing stalled cars, and kids handing out snacks in crowded shelters. One powerful moment came when a local high school football team helped clear debris from a senior living center, reminding everyone that recovery isn't only about government response, it's about community spirit. Fort Myers was battered, but not broken. The people proved once again that in the face of disaster, unity is the strongest defense.
You got it. One more time.
The financial toll of the Fort Myers flood is staggering. Preliminary estimates put damages at over $600 million, a number expected to rise as assessments continue. Thousands of vehicles were destroyed, many completely totaled after being submerged for hours. Auto repair shops across Lee County are overwhelmed while insurance companies brace for an avalanche of claims. Residential neighborhoods suffered severe losses. Families in low-lying areas returned to find their homes coated in mud furniture, ruined, and drywall buckling from water damage. Businesses, restaurants, retail shops, and hotels faced millions in revenue losses during what should have been peak tourist season. Some small businesses may never reopen. Infrastructure also took a beating. Dozens of roads remain closed, and engineers are inspecting bridges for hidden structural damage. Storm drains and pumping stations will require expensive repairs. Power outages, which peaked at nearly 90,000 customers, added to the disruption while water treatment plants are under pressure to restore full service. But recovery efforts are already in motion. Governor Ron DeSantis has declared a state of emergency unlocking state resources and federal aid. FEMA crews are on the ground and the Red Cross has opened multiple assistance centers. The road to recovery will be long, but Fort Myers is mobilizing fast.
Oh, shit. Get in the house.
Meteorologists describe the Fort Myers flood as the result of a perfect storm of conditions. A stalled cold front lingered over southwest Florida, pulling in warm, moisture-rich air from the Gulf of Mexico. At the same time, an upper-level jet stream added wind shear, creating persistent thunderstorms that repeatedly dumped rain over the same area. In less than 24 hours, some gauges recorded over 12 inches of rainfall, the kind of deluge usually seen in a tropical storm. But beyond local weather quirks, scientists warn this event reflects a broader pattern. Warmer air holds more moisture, meaning that when storms do form, they release heavier downpours. Sea surface temperatures in the Gulf of Mexico have been running 2 to 3 degrees above average, providing extra energy to fuel storms. Climatologists also point out that urban expansion in Fort Myers has increased the risk. Paved roads, parking lots, and dense development reduce natural drainage, turning heavy rain into destructive flash floods. While no single storm can be blamed entirely on climate change, the trend is clear. Extreme rainfall events are becoming more frequent, more intense, and more costly. Fort Myers' disaster is a local tragedy, but also a warning of what cities across the U.S. could face in a warming world. The Fort Myers flood of September 17, 2025 was more than a weather event. It was a wake-up call. For city officials, it exposed urgent gaps in infrastructure preparedness and communication systems. Drainage channels must be widened, stormwater pumps modernized, and new construction held to stricter flood-resistant codes. Emergency alerts also need to reach residents faster and more reliably. For residents, the lessons are deeply personal. Families are rethinking evacuation plans, stocking up on emergency supplies, and learning never to underestimate a flash flood watch. Community groups, churches, schools, and volunteer networks proved essential and must be expanded. At the state and national level, experts are urging investments in flood defenses, stronger building codes, and climate-resilient infrastructure. Florida isn't alone. Cities from Houston to New Orleans and Miami face the same rising risks. But through it all, one thing stood out: resilience. Neighbors formed human chains to rescue the stranded volunteers, delivered meals to shelters, and first responders worked around the clock. So here's the question: are we ready for the next storm? If you found this report valuable, hit the like button, share it with your friends, and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss the next deep dive into extreme weather.